Hey, God, I wish I was at the hobo war. Fuck. Anyway, I've had anxiety most of my adult life. Doctors call it acute generalized anxiety disorder. I call it dread with a tinge of panic. Anybody who doesn't have anxiety, first off, congratulations. I always like to describe it as things kind of being a little off, and when things feel a little off, then your brain accelerating those things a lot more so that pretty soon there's a nuclear war happening. It's not great. Usually I think of it as, those first couple seconds of deja vu, when you have like something terrible is about to happen. That's like anxiety, but instead of like it going away after a couple seconds, like it stays for like a few minutes or a few hours or a few days. And so I never really considered anxiety to be a medical condition for me. Like I never thought it was something that I needed to have like medical attention for. Like it was just like a weakness. It was a weakness that I needed to overcome. It was something that I had brought on to myself that I needed to conquer. And some of that probably comes from my grandmother, who was a wonderful lady. And I'm not being sarcastic, I really mean it. She really was a wonderful lady. But she always told me as a kid, she gave me the worst advice ever. And I will say, don't ever give this advice to anyone. But she always said, it doesn't matter how you feel, it only matters how you look. and so I took that to heart, as an 8-year-old, and pretty much lived my life that way. And so, for many, many years, we'll start in the 20s. So in my mid-20s, like most people in their mid-20s, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't know anything. And so I luckily made some good decisions with the help of many other very good friends. And I ended up going to law school. And I went to law school, and things were going swimmingly. I was doing very well in my classes, but I still had this little tinge of dread. Every once in a while, not even every once in a while, like probably like a couple times a day, it would like pop its head up and just be like, hey, just remember, this is all gonna fall to shit. Any second, this house of cards that you are the main fraud part of, it's gonna go to shit. And then like I'd stomp that down, and like move on. And like sometimes it would manifest itself in like small ways. Like I would cut steak up really, really small because I was afraid I was gonna choke to death when I was eating it. Or if the lighting wasn't right in a grocery store, or my food looked a little off when it was served to me at a restaurant, I would have to leave. Like, I can't deal with that. Nope, not gonna deal with these changes to the stimuli around my brain. So I would just leave. And things went on like that. And then sometimes they would manifest themselves in much larger ways, like having a panic attack while in trial advocacy class and presenting an oral argument. That's a lot of fun. But still, it never occurred to me that it was something that like I should seek medical treatment for. It was always something that like it was a weakness within me and I needed to solve it. And so I managed to solve it enough to successfully graduate law school, and then I got some jobs, and I did okay at those jobs, and then I got other jobs, and like eventually I ended up arguing a case in front of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. And I have a panic attack, which sounds probably not quite as bad as it actually is. But fun fact, side story, Pennsylvania Supreme Court arguments are videotaped and then put on television. And my buddy from back home in Erie, Pennsylvania, is flipping around the channels someday, because I don't know what kind of TV he has, but whatever. And he's flipping around the channels and he sees my face on television across the state, and he watches the argument. And then he calls me and he says, whoa man, Sabol, dude, That was awesome. He was so like cool and composed, and I'm like, cool and composed? Are you nuts? Like, my heartbeat was 200 fucking beats a minute. Like, I couldn't hold the papers because my hands were shaking so much. But then I remembered, doesn't matter how you feel, it matters how you look. And I looked the part. So that worked. And then I had a kid. And let me tell you something. You want something that's good for anxiety. Crying baby. And the stress that crying baby already puts on a fragile relationship. So one night, in the middle of the night, I give Harrison his late night feeding, and I put him down in his crib and immediately realize I'm having a heart attack. Or someone dosed me with acid. Or both. It's probably both. So I lay down in my bed and I'm desperately swiping Candy Crush tiles, just trying to soothe my rattled, racing brain. And eventually I doze off. And next morning I wake up and I'm like, I have to go to the doctor. There has to be something I can do about this. And the doctor gives me an anxiety test. And I scored 17 out of 20, which sounds good, but it's not. The bonus points, though, I only scored 3 out of 20 in depression, so I had that going for me. So I ended up getting on medication, and slowly but surely, the dread stopped coming as much. And then his brother, his asshole brother, Panic, stopped coming altogether. And it just kept getting less and less and less. And then I realized that, like, it's not like a weakness in me. Like, it's something that, like, people have mental health issues. Everybody has mental health issues, probably. Most of you do. I mean, I know that. And so I guess this is my courageous thing, to like come in front of you and like tell you something that like I would have seen as like a huge character flaw 5 years ago. And now I can stand in front of you and say that like everything's not okay, but hey, that's okay.